Hello children, welcome to today's English class. I hope you all are safe, healthy and happy at home, and you also remember what we had learned in our last class. We are right now learning some grammar from your syllabus, and we had discussed about the subject-verb agreement looking at various examples. I hope you might have revised and gone through all those examples and also try to practice some of the exercises at home. As I had told you, this year in the grammar part you're going to get multiple choice questions. Today we learn about determiners. Children, you might have learnt about determiners in your primary or in your upper primary classes. So you are aware of what determiners are, though you might have not been told directly that whatever you have learned in grammar are called determiners. Though you might not be familiar with this particular term determiners, but different parts of the determiners were there as part of your syllabus in your primary and upper primary classes. So as we discuss, you might remember and recall whatever you have learned. So let's try to understand what are determiners. Now, a determiner is a word that determines or limits the noun that follows it. Determiners introduce the nouns to us. Okay? For example, a book, an ink pot, some boys, any book, a few difficulties, a little rest, etc. Okay? Determiners also introduce the nouns to us. Now, let's see what are the different parts that comes under determiners. You have articles. As I told you, you have learned articles in your primary and upper primary classes. So articles a, an and the. We'll be learning more about them. Okay, here possessives. Okay, like maybe hers, their, okay, his, my, etc. Okay, possessive, children, comes from the word possess. If you try to understand it in this way, possess means to have something or something which belongs to somebody. This is her house. That is their office. Okay, we'll be learning more about that. And here, quantifiers or things that talk about quantity. You can say much, many, few, etc. Okay, and also demonstratives. Okay, demonstratives, this, these, that and those. Okay, so these are the four different things that come under determiners, and we'll be discussing in detail with the help of examples. So as I told you, children, articles a, an and the. We know that articles a is used before consonants, and we use before a, e, I, o, u the vowels, and the is a definite article. When we talk about some particular things, we use the article, the. Now possessives, her, their, his, my, etc. And here demonstratives, this and these, that and those, which tell us about some things, okay, which are near or far. For example, this and that we use for singular verbs, and these and those we use for plural verbs. So children, I hope you got an idea of what determiners are. So now let's try to understand the determiners. Now, children, please look at your screen very carefully as we discuss about the determiners. Now, as I told you in the beginning, determiner is a word that determines or limits the noun that follows it. For example, a book, an ink pot, the Ramayana, some boys, any book, a few difficulties, a little rest. Now, determiner is also a kind of adjective, and we had discussed about adjectives before also. Adjectives are the words that qualifies nouns, or they tell us something about a noun. For example, Ram is an honest boy. Okay, so honest is the adjective. Now, the only difference between an adjective and a determiner is that an adjective is a word that talks about the quality of a person, or it qualifies a noun. Okay, that adds something to nouns. A determiner is a word that determines or limits the noun that follows it. Now, kinds of determiners. As we had looked at in the beginning, and for the convenience of us to understand or to study, determiners can be divided into the following groups. Possessives: my, our, yours, his, her, its, their. Okay, as I told you, it talks about something that belongs to somebody. Possessives. Now, demonstrative. Demonstrative also we have the definite and the indefinite. Definite we have the, this, that, these, those, such, same, etc. Now, indefinite: a, an, any, some, other, certain, etc. Now, quantitative, okay, or as I told you, the quantifiers: much, little, no, some, any, enough, sufficient, all, whole, half, etc. Now, quantitative tells us something about the quantity, the amount. Now, numeral. Numeral is something that is related to numbers. Now, for the definite, the determiners are 1, 2, 3, first, second, third, etc. Now, for the indefinite, we have all, some, no, many, few, several, etc. Now, articles. The definite article the, and the indefinite articles a and an. Okay, so I hope this table is clear to you. Now, let's try to look at some of the determiners and how do we use them. Now, some, any. Both these words refer to quantity as well as quality. Some is used in the following kinds of sentences: in affirmative sentences. Now, children, what are affirmative sentences? Sentences that are positive. There are two kinds of sentences. We have already learnt about the different types of sentences: positive sentences and negative sentences. So, affirmative sentences means positive sentences. Okay, there are some children outside. Some people say that money makes the mare go. Okay. So, in interrogative sentences. Now, what are interrogative sentences, children? Sentences that asks questions. Okay. What are you doing? Where are you going? Are you tired? Okay, so these are interrogative sentences. Now, in interrogative sentences, when the speaker expects an affirmative answer. Affirmative answers, I've told you, some positive answers. Okay, aren't there some stamps in the drawer? Okay, maybe the speaker would say, yes, there are. Did he give you some money? Yes, he did. So, some or any, we use them in affirmative sentences. We'll be looking at more use of some in the examples that we are going to look at now. Now, you might have seen the use of some and any. Okay, now let's move and see the use of any now. Any is used in the following kinds of sentences, in negative sentences. I didn't buy any bread. He has not solved any question. Okay, as I told you, not. When you see not in a sentence, children, that means it is a negative sentence. Okay, this house has got lot of rooms. Affirmative sentence. This house has very few rooms, or this house does not have many rooms. So whenever you see not, children, it means it is a negative sentence. So you use any in negative sentences. For example, he has not solved any question. There isn't any milk in the house. Okay. In interrogative sentences, when the speaker expects a negative answer. Okay. Have you any problem? No, I don't have any problem. Are there any stamps in the drawer? No, there aren't any stamps in the drawer. We had looked at the examples before which expected positive answers from the speaker. Now here, in interrogative sentences, when the speaker expects a negative answer. Now, you have to remember, children, not any, no. Okay? We must never use no with any. For example, it's wrong to say, I bought no any apple. Instead, we should say, I bought no apple, or I did not buy any apple. Okay? Children, are you with me? I hope you all are attentively listening to me and trying to understand the determiners along with me. Now, few and little. Few is an adjective of number, and little is an adjective of quantity. Children, I told you about quantifiers and numeral in the beginning when we tried to understand what determiners are. Now, note the difference in the meaning and use of few, a few, and the few. So, children, you often get confused with these three words, where you have to use them. So let's try to look at the situations where you can use them. Few, as I told you, it talks about number. It is a negative adjective. It is used in the sense of not many. Few means not many, maybe you can count 4 or 5. Suppose in a basket there are 4 or 5 apples, and somebody asks you, how many apples are there? So you can see that there are hardly 4 or 5 apples. You can count very easily. So when you see, you can see that only there are 4 or 5 apples in the basket. So you will say there are few apples in the basket. Okay? Now, little is an adjective of quantity. So few talks about number. Okay. Now, a few, it is an affirmative adjective. Affirmative means we had learned it is a positive sentence. So, a few is used in the sense of some at least. At least there are some. Like more than 4 or 5. When there were hardly 4 or 5 apples, we said there are few apples in the basket. But when there were more than 4 or 5 apples, maybe 10 or 15 or 20 in a big basket, and you can not very quickly count them, so you say a few, more than 4 or 5. Okay, that means, okay, at least there are some apples. Okay, so whenever you say a few means more than few, and you can say that at least, okay, there are some. Okay, now the few. As I told you children, the talks about definite things. The is also a definite article. Now it implies 2 statements, one negative and the other affirmative. Let's try to look at the examples. He makes few mistakes. He does not make many mistakes. He makes few mistakes means he does not make many mistakes. So when we see that, we want to say that he does not make many mistakes, we say he makes few mistakes. Okay, he makes a few mistakes. That means he does not make some mistakes at least. Okay, a few. That means hardly you can say, okay, 1 or 2. Okay, I corrected the few mistakes he had made. That means he did not make many mistakes and I corrected all of them. Okay, when we say the few, that means we talk of some particular mistakes out of all the mistakes. Okay, so he did not make many mistakes, and whatever mistake was there, I corrected all of them. So I corrected the few mistakes he had made. So we talk about the particular mistakes he had made. So children, the few. Okay, now the sentence 3 here, I corrected the few mistakes he had made, has got both negative and affirmative, positive and negative meaning. For example, negative, the mistakes he had made were not many. Okay, affirmative, I corrected all the mistakes he had made. So you have got not there in the first sentence, which is negative, and here I corrected all the mistakes he had made, that is affirmative sentence. I hope children you have understood where to use few, a few and the few. Okay, now let's move on. Note the difference in the meaning and use of little, a little and the little. It is the same way children as we had looked at few, a few and the few. So here little, it's a negative adjective. Again, it is used in the sense of not much. Little means not much. Okay, a little, again it is an affirmative. It is used in the same way as some at least. First, not much, a little, at least, some. Okay, and the little again talks of 2 different kinds of statements. One is negative and the other one is affirmative. It talks about the positive sentence and it indicates the whole of any particular quantity. Okay, when we talk about the whole of any particular quantity, then we say the. We use the definite article the. Okay, so little, a little and the little. Now let's look at some examples and try to understand. He had little milk. That means he did not have much milk. Now he had a little milk. That means he had at least some milk. Some, okay? He drank the little milk I had. So here, the sentence talks about a particular amount of milk that was there with me, which he drank. So he drank the little milk I had. I did not have much milk, and he drank all of it. Thus, sentence 3 also has got negative and affirmative sentences. For example, negative, the milk I had was not much. Okay? I had little milk. But the positive or affirmative type is he drank all the milk I had. You must keep in mind the following points about the use of these determiners: much, less, many, fewer. Children, we had discussed about much, many, less and fewer when we discussed in the introduction about determiners. Okay, they are quantifiers, or they talk about quantity. So much, many, less, fewer, they talk about quantity, you must remember. Much and less are adjectives of quantity. Many and fewer are adjectives of number. Much is used with uncountable nouns, singular, and many is used with countable nouns, plural. Okay? For example, uncountable nouns, there isn't much oil in the can. There isn't much sugar in the house. Sugar, oil, rice, things which you cannot count, you say much. You don't say there isn't many sugar in the house. Right? There isn't much sugar in the house. Now, many is used with countable nouns, plural. Okay? For example, there are many apples in the basket. There are many children in this class. Plural nouns and countable nouns. Okay? So I hope much and many is clear to you, children, the use of much and many. Now, fewer is used as the comparative of few. It denotes number. You have also read about comparing the adjectives. Okay? The positive, the comparative and the superlative degree. Okay? Tall, taller, tallest. Good, better, best. Bad, worse, worst. Okay? So fewer we use for comparing. Less is very rarely used as a comparative of little. It is an independent comparative. So it has, in fact, no positive degree. It generally talks about quantity. Now, as a general rule, you must remember the following determiners denote quantity. We use them, with noun or verb in the singular form. Much, little and less. We use them with singular nouns. Now, the following determiners denote number, and we use them with a noun or a verb in the plural. Many, few and fewer. Okay? Because they talk of number. Now, let's look at some examples of much, many, fewer and less. Now, there is not much food in the house. Much of what you say is true. He never eats much breakfast. So children, here much food, much of what you say and much breakfast. So all these are uncountable. So we use much. Okay. Now many as I told you, number and countable nouns. I don't have many friends. He does not know many things. Many of them think so. I have read many books of Shakespeare. Fewer, again number. No fewer than 20 workers were absent. There were fewer men than women. So here fewer has been used for comparing. Okay? The sentence talks about, the number of men and women present there. So it says there were fewer men than women. Okay? So that means women were more in number. So there is a comparison. So we use fewer as a comparative, determiner. Today I bought fewer eggs. Now less, that is quantity, less or more we say. Okay? He had less difficulty with his work. That means he did not have much difficulty. Don't think it has less importance. I have less money than you. I hope children you have understood. Now let's look at articles. A, an and the are called articles. The is called the definite article as I had told you. And a and an are indefinite articles. An is used before a vowel or silent H, as an apple, an egg, an ink pot, an ox, an umbrella, an honest, an MA, etc. Okay, children, we'll be discussing also about the use of an, as you might have learnt in your primary classes or in your upper primary classes about articles, and you might remember the use of an with the vowels A, E, I, O, U. So normally you think of the example an umbrella. Okay. Now what about universe? What about unit? Okay. We don't say an unit. We don't say an universe. So here you have to remember, children, that all the words beginning with the vowel U does not have an before them. So you have to be very careful. Okay. So only with the words, suppose let's take umbrella. Okay. So you pronounce umbrella, the letter U has A as pronunciation. You pronounce it as A here in this particular word because you say umbrella. Okay. Though the letter is U, you say umbrella. Okay. Earn. Okay. U-R-N, earn. So wherever the sound of U is A, you say an umbrella, an earn. Okay. But universe or university. Okay. So here in this word, you pronounce U as U, not A. You don't say university, you say university. So the words where the pronunciation of U is U. Okay, unity, universe, union. So there you have to use the article A. Okay. This department or this organization has got a union. Okay. Our city has got a big university. Okay, a university. So an umbrella. Okay. So children, I hope you will remember, the vowel U and the use of an or a before the words that begin with U. is used before a consonant, okay, before U sounded as U, and before O sounded as W. Okay, a kite, a cart, a monkey, a unit. Okay, as I told you just now, though unit has got the vowel U, but the sound is U. So you say a unit and you don't say an unit. A useful, U. Here the word U is, the letter U sounds U. So you will say a useful thing. A one-eyed man, a European country, etc. So children, I hope you are listening attentively and you have understood about determiners and also got some idea about the use of articles. Children will be continuing learning about determiners in our next class too. So till then, you just look into your grammar book if you have one, some more examples, and try to understand the concept in a better manner. And in the next class, we'll be looking at more uses of articles, and also we'll be looking at some exercises related to determiners. So see you in the next class. Until then, take care, stay safe, stay at home.